My name is Sydney Smooth. My senior project presentation is going to be on the art of playing piano. So a little bit about me before I get started. Next year I'm going to UNH to major in biology, and I'll probably go minor in or have a club with art. I also have a younger sibling, Jay, who's a freshman here. And I'm kind of a big family. I have a stepmom, 3 step-siblings, and a bunch of cousins, aunts, and uncles. So I'm kind of in the middle age range for graduating kids. I also have an interest in music, so that's part of why I chose this as my project. So my AOK is how can I correlate emotions between piano and art while I learn how to play. So why did I choose this as my senior project? Well, I've always had an interest in art. I've really always enjoyed drawing. I've mostly focused on drawing like objects or people, so I don't have a lot of experience with backgrounds or scenery, and that's something I thought I could focus on with this project and get better at. And then I also really like piano. I've tried multiple times to learn it. There was once when I was younger, about 7, and I first got into it, but I didn't really keep up with it. And then another time when I was like 13 or 14 and I took lessons outside of school. I took a class here at BHS, but I didn't keep going after that, so I kind of like forgot everything I learned. And I also thought I wanted to do it because music is very expressive, and I really enjoy like just kind of the emotions and how it makes people like feel certain ways. And it also just helps me to de-stress for both listening to and playing music. So included in this senior project is going to be first my research and creating my art and the progress with that and my struggles with it, and then learning to play and everything that came along with it. So the first most important thing to me was articles and answering these most important questions to me. First was what factors cause different emotional responses, what notes are important to differentiate, and how can I practice. When I got into it, I was thinking like what parts of playing affect the emotion of the song. For example, like how long you hold down the keys, or like how fast or slow a song is. And then the different kind of notes, like sharp notes, bass notes, or just like what kind of notes you play together and how that affects emotion. And then what's the best way for me to warm up and practice my songs. So the outside expert I chose for this project was Ms. Heron. Some of you may know her. She's a teacher here at Bedford High School. She teaches chorus and piano, and that's a class that I took in like freshman year. And she has years of experience with it, so I thought there's a lot that she could teach me and help me with when getting started with this project. So first was warm-ups. I learned that it's pretty important to just kind of get yourself ready for practicing songs, like doing scales on the piano, like just going up and down and making sure you can play fluidly, as well as practicing with more, like simpler songs rather than the song that you're trying to learn that's more complicated, and then just practicing with it and keeping up with it. So I just got advice from online articles and from Ms. Heron on the best ways to do that. So first I had to choose my songs for this project. I was thinking I could choose 3 songs and they'd all have like varying kinds of emotion, like sad, happy, angry, or whatever. But when I reevaluated my project, I realized I can only really do 2 of them realistically. So I chose 2 songs to do and 2 art pieces to make for each of them. So the first song that I chose is called Ocarina of Time. It's from a video game called The Legend of Zelda, some of you might know it. And the reason I chose it is because it's like a softer, calmer melody. So I really like the sound of it and I really wanted to learn it. And then I'm going to play my progress with it and how well I was able to play after some practice. and there's not much to it because it's not the full song, but Alright, and then I asked people that I knew for like describing words of what this song makes them feel, and they gave me words like nostalgic, reflective, peaceful, and reminiscent, and that helped me choose and get started with my first art piece. So this is my progress. At first, I came up with like ideas and sketched on paper kind of what I wanted it to look like. I kind of made like slight variations to the scenery of like ideas that I had in my head. And then when I finally decided on what I wanted to make, I got started with it on paper. At first I tried to make it with colored pencil and then with watercolor, and I realized that I didn't really know how to use those well, so I decided I should use what I know how to, which is drawing digitally. That's how I usually make stuff, and I realized that if I tried to learn a new art form, that would kind of be a whole project in of itself. So the one on the top is kind of my progress with doing it on Ibis Paint. And then that's just the finished first piece. I was okay with how it turned out. I didn't think it was that great, and I kind of wish I had more detail with it. I feel like it just was kind of dark, and there's not a lot I could have added to it. So I think I worked on it for about like 4 hours in total. And then the second song that I learned is called Lost Woods, from the same game, but kind of on the opposite end of emotion, like a happier, peppier song. I was going to learn Great Fairy's Fountain. That was the first one I found that I really liked, but as I got started with it, I realized that it was more complicated and not something that I could learn as easily as I wanted to, so I chose this song instead. And then I have a progress video with that as well. So you can tell with that one, I'm not very experienced and I kind of still mess up a lot, but it was just learning how to get more fluent with it and not make mistakes. So again, adjectives that people gave me to describe the song is like upbeat, whimsical, just kind of adventurous, and that helped me get started with my second art piece. So I had brainstormed ideas for kind of what I wanted it to look like, but I wasn't totally sure. I know I wanted it to have like kind of a forest background because of the name of the song, of course. And I finally decided on something that was like kind of a waterfall in the middle of the woods. So this is my second art piece finished, and I was happier with this one than I was with the first one. I felt like I just did better with shading, with details. I felt like I could have done more. Like I wasn't 100% happy with like the lighting of it. I'm not that experienced with shading, and I don't really understand completely how highlighting like lighting with different parts works. But that's something that I'm hoping to improve at. And I think that one took about like 6 hours in total. So now that I'm done with my project, Something that I want to do is maintain consistency with art and piano as hobbies. That's something I really enjoy, and I've like always done drawing, but like doing scenery and background is something that I want to have more experience with, and I just want to like keep listening to music, learn more complicated songs, and I also want to improve on areas where I lack in skill. I still feel like I could have done better with, say, shading, with lighting, with adding more detail. I also am not that good at playing two hands at the same time. When I got started, I thought it would be easier, but I realized that like playing on both hands separately is definitely a lot easier. I also want to regularly practice with like a creative, expressive outlet. I think it's pretty important, at least for me, to have a creative outlet to express myself, and it's really fun and nice to like de-stress with it. I also want to learn to read music sheets. That's something that Miss Heron told me about. Learning to read music sheets takes a little bit of time, so I figured that instead of doing that, I could watch YouTube tutorials like that one up there. It just kind of shows you where to put your hands rather than having to read where notes are, and kind of learn how they look on a music sheet, so that's what I did instead. And then during my project, I learned that expression through sound, like my A-OK, is like notes have to do with it. Slower songs have a calmer kind of feel to them, and faster songs that are usually more intense or happy. And then short notes in rapid succession, like with my second song, Lost Woods, is usually a peppier, like more upbeat kind of song. And then songs that kind of hold down keys, like Ocarina of Time, are usually sadder and slower. And then like quiet keys versus loud keys, songs that usually have softer playing, like quieter keys, are usually more soft and sad than ones with like where you press down harder on the keyboard. And I also learned that it's harder than it looks. With some songs, like the first one, Great Fairies Fountain, I thought it would be easier than it really was. When I got started with it and I was learning it, it was pretty easy on like one hand, just learning it by itself. But when I tried to put it together, it was definitely a lot more difficult. So I learned that I needed to just kind of make room for mistakes and for roadblocks in my projects, and making sure that I don't kind of overestimate myself. And I also want to ask more advice from experienced people in the future. I felt like I definitely could have used more tips with art. I wasn't that experienced with shading and with scenery, but I thought, well, I've drawn in the past and I've done art before, so I thought it was something that I'd be able to handle. But I definitely could have used tips with it. I've taken drawing 1 and drawing 2 at Bedford High School, but I mostly learned how to draw like objects and people, so it didn't really focus on scenery and just the kind of things that I wanted to incorporate in my art in this project. So if I were to do this project again and change things about it, I would probably save experimenting new ways of art for another time. I kind of went into it feeling like if I was already doing what I was doing, then I could also kind of experiment with different art. I really wanted to try like painting, colored pencil, watercolor. It was all something I had available, and so I thought it was something I could get into, but it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, and I realized that it was something that was going to be more complicated. I also want to find advice for drawing. Like I said before, I felt like I wasn't that experienced, and there are definitely people I know that are more experienced with like scenery and art, who would probably have given me tips that I could use for my project. And I also want to, I should have practiced for longer periods at a time, because I mostly did like 30-minute practice increments every other day or something like that. So it was like slower learning. I feel like I didn't have as much memory retention with my songs because of it. If I had practiced for more, like maybe an hour and a half every other day, or perhaps an hour and a half like every day, then I probably would have learned them quicker and maybe gotten onto other songs. And I also struggled a lot with motivation in this project. There was like times where I didn't work on it, like during say breaks, and like times where work got really stressful. So I focused a lot on that instead of the project, and I didn't get as far as I wanted to with it. I also learned that I should learn correctly before quickly, and it's something that Miss Heron told me about. When you're playing a song, there's like a more efficient way to play, like with hand placement. And if you learn kind of the wrong way to play first, then it's more difficult to unlearn that and kind of get into the habit of the correct way of playing. So that's something that I kind of made a mistake with in my second song, and so it took me longer to learn. I also would use a metronome in the future, which is just something that kind of helps you keep on track with the song. It helps you stay on beat and make sure you don't like speed up or slow down on accident as you're going throughout the song, which is something that I felt like I did a lot. So I would probably started using that if I were to go back to the beginning of my project. So there are my works cited. And a big thank you to my senior project mentor, Ms. Roche, for helping me and supporting me throughout this whole project. I couldn't have done it without her guidance and help on it. And my parents for being there and for keeping me on task with this project, and to my sibling for also being there for me. And then my closing thought is, without art or music, would words be enough to express your thoughts or feelings? Any questions? Yeah.
What app did you use for your paintings?
I used Ibis Paint.
I use Ibis Paint X. Did you use the X version? I do.
I don't think so. Yeah.
When was your first time playing a piano?
My first time?
Yeah.
Well, the first time I ever tried was when I was like 7, and I discovered that I really liked it. But the first time I actually started actually playing songs was when I was like 13 or 14. Yeah.
Would you want to stick to like fun songs like songs from video games, or would you want to move on to like different genres of music?
I probably want to practice different genres in the future. I think the ones I'm most interested in are like video game music or just songs that I know. But in the future, I'd probably want to learn different genres as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you more proud of your work on the art end of it or the music end of it? Or like
I'd say the art end. Like, I really wanted to get into drawing scenery for a while, and this was my excuse to do so. So I really liked that I was able to do that. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming.